Welcome to WFMR, a space to learn about WFM topics. Today we'll talk about shrinkage, a concept that you must master in any WFM role. Let's get to it. So, what is shrinkage anyway? Shrinkage is any activity performed by agents that reduces the amount of resources that you have for your main task, which could be phone, chat, email, social media, or any combination thereof. The reason why this is called shrinkage is because it literally shrinks the amount of resources you have, and the key to know when any activity should be included in shrinkage or not is if there is no other way to account for that activity in your model. If there is not, then you may include it in shrinkage. But how will you use this once you have the percentage? Okay, so once you have this percentage of shrinkage, you will use this to increase your staff to a level where you provide awesome support, but at the same time, you don't overspend to provide such level of support. Remember that shrinkage is linked to operational costs. Now, these calculations will be done yearly, monthly, weekly, daily, and even interval level, which could be hours, but more often than not is going to go at 15-minute level. Once you know how many people you need on every 15 minutes of your entire service window, you will compare this number to your available staff. Now, available staff means that anyone scheduled to do anything else that is not your main activity, they must not be counted as available staff. So, this shrinkage calculation then will always be used to increase your requirement in order to account for situations that happen but that you cannot really plan for. Let's go check some numbers to better understand shrinkage. On this table, I listed several categories to better understand shrinkage. Please focus your attention on columns H through J. Shrinkage can be planned and unplanned. It can be offsite or onsite. The difference is simple. You can plan vacations ahead of time, so that's an example of planned shrinkage. However, you cannot plan when people will call in sick or when they will simply miss their shift. So that is unplanned shrinkage. All these examples I've given so far are offsite shrinkage because the agent won't be logged in or connected to any systems, whether they go to the office to work or they work remotely. Then let's give a couple examples of on-site shrinkage, like one-to-ones, training, or even breaks. Now, we will go line by line to explain how we built our calculation from scratch. Let me start by telling you what the remaining columns mean. Column K here is the original time unit that each category has. Column L will tell us how many times each category will repeat during the year. Then column M is just a helpful column that will let us convert everything into hours on column N, where we have the totals in hours. Then the three remaining columns O through Q we will cover later, so don't worry about it. Then, now, line by line. So at the very beginning we have base hours. We have 5 days each week because on this example agents will have 2 days off weekly. This will repeat 52 times, and since each working day is 8 hours, my yearly result in hours will be 2080 hours. Vacations, we have 5 working days, 2 times a year, so that's 80 hours yearly. Sick leave, we have 1 day per month, so that is only 96 hours yearly. Absenteeism and tardiness, 1.5 days per month equals to 144 hours. The remaining categories are expressed in hours in column K, and then we will consider 50 repetitions on column L. One-to-ones is 1 hour weekly, training 30 minutes weekly, break, it's 2 breaks of 15 minutes daily, which is 2.5 hours weekly, and that is 125 hours yearly. Last, but certainly not least, I added a category called Other. I made it as big as 2.5 hours weekly because you could account for multiple things in this category, like system issues, unauthorized disconnections, bathroom time, or whatever the case may be. The point is this is a safety net of lost time where your agents may not be where they are supposed to, have in mind that this is just an example, and in your current setup, you may have more categories, very different numbers based on either your location or the nature of the business. When you do your own exercise, you can certainly add or remove categories and input the numbers that make sense to you. Since we went through each line, now let's explain how shrinkage evolves through different phases of WFM cycle. Columns O through Q state yes or no depending on whether or not I need to add shrinkage category to my calculations right here. On budget phase, for example, let's start with budget. We need to account for the money that we spend, and therefore everything counts. You can see, except for base hours, everything counts. This is mostly done once a year, and when you do it, you must know how much percentage of shrinkage you need to set to each of your categories, as this will have for sure a financial impact. Then, on scheduling phase, it is no longer necessary to account for the same things in shrinkage. The reason is simple. Scheduling is often done weekly or bi-weekly and maybe even monthly in some cases. Regardless of these, vacation time is something that must be planned ahead. For sure, your agents will want to know if they can purchase their flight tickets as much in advance as they can. So, this means that by the time you yourself create schedules or use your scheduling tool to do so, you will already know when your agents will be on vacation. Since this is no longer a question mark, then you don't need these into your shrinkage anymore for scheduling. Now, similar deal with breaks. Most scheduling tools create the schedules with a break. Why? Because the break can be planned and in most companies is always present on every day, whereas the category name other, for example, which in my example represents the exact same number of shrinkage hours than breaks, cannot be planned. It will always be a question mark until it actually happens. Then you will know how much of non-accounted for shrinkage you had. So, for scheduling, we remove vacations and breaks at the very least. If in your setup you create one-to-ones at this stage or even something else, then you must remove it as well. And last but not least, the real-time phase. When you reach the moment where your plan will be executed, most likely there is not so many uncertainties around shrinkage anymore. You know the who's and when's on things like vacations, breaks, trainings, one-to-ones, and maybe you even know that someone will not be there because they called in sick for 2 or 3 days, maybe more. Then, for real time, we remove one-to-ones and training at the very least. Now, let's check out some percentages to compare numbers between the different phases of WFM cycle. So, on this new table, we have the shrinkage phase, then the base hours, and then we have graphed this. On the right side, the graph with the percentages of each phase. Notice that the percentage changes on each phase, and also the base hours is different in the budget phase. And this is because I include vacations there and I don't count them on the others.